So we're back for another installment of the Tennyson Gambit because people played the Scandinavian defense against me. And we're going to ruin Black's preparation again. However, I must pay a compliment to this player. Good, high-rated player who understood how to get me out of the Tennyson Gambit back into a center counter game. So he was willing to put up with all my shenanigans and managed to get himself into some sort of mainstream game where he was actually able to get me to trade off his white squared bishop. However, in reality, I ended up with a better center, and I was able to convert my center into a kingside attack. So he really didn't burn a lot of time. He just seemed to have seen this before and knew what he was doing, and I hadn't seen this order of moves before, and he did a pretty good job. So compliments to my opponent. So we will unpause the engine and start this game. We move knight to f3. Computer says I've screwed up already. So he pins. Very interesting idea, you know. So the computer's torn between h3 and e takes d5, either one of which give us an advantage, but that would be normal to Scandinavian. I just took that and chased his queen. It seemed like the right thing to do. h3, this is standard. Says he should have taken. Now I should move bishop to c4, and that's very, very standard looking Scandinavian stuff. Instead, I move bishop to e2. Simply because it looked too much like a good Scandinavian line. I figured he knows his books, and I'm just going to do something that's not booked. Now it says I can move b4, interestingly. So obviously b4 is kind of a poisonous pawn at this point. Probably because I can move knight to b5, and if he tries to protect it in some way, I probably have a way of getting my bishop involved, my black squared bishop. So c6, this still looks like a very standard Scandinavian to me. Wants me to move a3 or bishop to f4, I castle. Once again, I'm just maintaining a half a pawn advantage. Bishop to d2 was not the recommended move. He moves his queen. Also not the recommended move. Here's an interesting move, knight to b1. Don't see that every day. So I move knight to e5. I like putting my knights in posts in the middle. And we trade off our white squared bishops. It's basically an even game. He attacks. These are all like the number one moves. Now it's recommending that I develop a rook. And instead I choose this path, which I'm not wild about, but I'm trying to create some sort of dynamic imbalance. And does leave my d-pawn weak. And I would like to do something other than what happened here, but I was willing to give it a shot. Okay. Castles is the correct move. Now it wants me to move knight to a4. A lot of times computers do mysterious things to me. So this has basically I blundered away my advantage and given him a slight advantage if he just plays correctly, which in this case, I guess it's even, huh? He's torn between there, moving rook to e8. I take back. He moves. This is all very standard. Now you're going to see something very interesting occur, I think. What do we do in a position like this? We have all this dynamic imbalance. Both sides are developed similarly. White has a little better center. Black's king is probably less exposed than white's king. We're going to do something semi-tall-like and dubious here. And it says he moves queen takes d7. Correct move. And I move queen to d3 with a completely even game. It's practically, in fact, black has a small advantage. So I have to watch discoveries on my d-pawn. And frankly, if I'm going to do something here now, it has to be done now. That's the way I look at it. So what I do is I do that. Now, if we let the computer look at it for a while, it's going to say I blundered. You know, I had an even game and now I'm down half a pawn. But look, I'm only down half to 3/4, and I have this dynamic imbalance going on, and I've screwed up his king side, and I'm pretty happy with the possibilities that exist here now. This is the kind of position I like playing. Now it says I should move knight to e4 right away, which I did do. And of course, this is a hard move to find, to keep himself half a pawn down. He wants to cover that f-pawn somehow, and he doesn't want to expose himself to a lot of checks, and he has to keep queens on that diagonal, otherwise queen goes to g4 and various things. And the right move is probably queen d6, but he doesn't probably want to line himself up. So what did he actually play? He played bishop to e7, attacking my d-pawn, covering it, and that's kind of like a weak move, So now it becomes a cat and mouse game of how well I attack versus how well he defends. And this is what I was looking for. He has only a black squared bishop, and as long as I can avoid a catastrophe, I have at least dynamic equality here, and I have the white squares. And so if I start getting something like a knight to h5 or f5, I've got something powerful going on. And now, of course, it wants him to play queen to d5, attacking my knight, which I really don't have a problem with, but he's decided to double attack my pawn, and the computer wants me to play the very fancy bishop to b4, taking advantage of the fork on f6. And I don't do that. I just simply cover the pawn, which is equally as good according to the computer, so why do you recommend that? Now he wants him to play queen to d5. These are hard moves to find, over the board. c5 is the losing move right there. As you can see, he just went down 2. So he needed to be a little more proactive here, and his position's just going to basically fall apart into a lost ending. So here's where the bishop goes to h6. And he's facing mate in 2 unless he does something. He moves the rook, he's got a bit of an issue, like a mate. And now it's suggesting just bishop takes f8. This is rook takes. It says knight takes c5, which I could have done, left myself with these really huge double pawns. Instead of being up 2.3, says he doesn't take, so I guess if he takes, I get the solution, so queen takes f6 check, then I take, so yeah, it's pretty much of a loser for him. So now you'll see that the course I took is not that bad. After a brief period of time, we're going to be up, maybe not 2.3, but we have a winning ending. And now king to g7, and now of course the computer insists that rook to d6 is the right move. And frankly, I like winning it my way. My rook pawn endings are not bad, so I don't move rook to d6. On the other hand, now that you see the computer's had a chance to look at it a little more, it's a similar result. So he could have moved over to the C file and didn't. Now things are just getting worse and worse. And I won't bore you with the rest of this. This is a solid win. I'll step you through it really quickly. One of the things that I've discovered in life is that rooks belong behind pawns in endings. It says I should just push here, but there's nothing you can do. Of course, I put my rook behind the pawn there after that too, so I get the behind the pawn, and it's a no-brainer after that. And now, as you see, my move wasn't really bad. He resigned. And that's the end of a Tennyson Gambit, which really turned into kind of an interesting center-counter game. And I hope you enjoyed it.